And welcome back, and thanks for rejoining us. We're going into our first segment, and as we mentioned prior to the commercial break, we are going to be discussing with representatives of the Belize City Council, Marlene, to discuss the council's first 100 days, its proposal for the next 100 days, I may say, and other things involving the new administration. That being said, we have been joined on set by Mayor Bernard Wagner. Good morning, Mayor Wagner.
Good morning, Isani. Nice
We've
being
also
here.
been joined by Councilor Aisha Gentle. Good morning, Councilor.
All right. Thank you for being here. Yeah. So let's start off. I want to be able to hear, Mayor Wagner, when you were last there, it was immediately after the win.
Yes.
And there's obviously a perception of what it's like to be in office, and then there's the reality. So I want you to talk to me just about your general assessment as how it's been for you in being able to execute your role as mayor of Belize City.
Okay, thanks again, Marlene. Like I told you in the beginning, when you step into office, all the expectation is very high, especially for a new team coming in. The expectation was really high. It's been challenging, of course, but we see it as an opportunity, a great opportunity for our council to be able to put our footprints in the Belize City landscape and to ensure that we impact in a positive way the quality of life for our Belize City residents. So it has been challenging, the expectations high. Obviously we came in, no one expected us to win the elections, and with hard work we were able to do it, and I believe that with hard work again we'll be able to overcome any shortfalls in the early going.
What would you say are the greatest challenges you faced within the first 2 months? It's almost 2 months.
It has been very adapting to the public administration. As you are aware, I came from the private sector, and many of the councillors came from the private sector, and so adapting to that new environment into the public forum has been a little bit challenging, but certainly nothing that we can't rectify, nothing we can't fix in the early going.
What has the transition been like in terms of meeting the employees at City Hall, being able to share a vision with them and have them buy into this proposed plan of action that you bring to the table?
Yes, like when we first went into office, we obviously met some level of resistance. We have, mind you, we have some great talent there at the Belize City Council, professional people. But again, there always is some of the staff there who are still hell-bent on ensuring that this council fails. But we put that aside as a council, and we know that we need to deliver for the residents of the city, and we need to work out some sort of agreement, some sort of mutual respect for each other to ensure that we are able to achieve what we set out to achieve in our manifesto. We can't do it on our own. We are, like I always tell the councillors, we are the policy makers. We are not there to govern, but we are able to lead the people who take care of the day-to-day operations of the city.
Yeah. Now, in general, people tend to be resistant to change. And I would imagine walking into an office where people are used to a different leadership style will come with its challenges, but it is one that you volunteered for in the campaign. So talk to us about how you plan to remedy or to work out the best possible plan to get your entire administration on board so that you can execute whatever plans you have in place.
Yeah. I believe, Marlene, in my experience, I've been in the banking sector for 25 going on to 30 years, and I've always been able to navigate those waters to ensure, and it's about influencing people. Yeah. It's about having people buy into your style. All managers have different management style. I bring a style of more inclusive, not exclusive. I want to get everybody under the tent. that approach. I want to be able to listen to you. I want to be accessible to you. And that type of style has resonated with a number of the employees in the council, and I hope to, as time goes by, we can put whatever under the bridge and we move on.
Now,
I spoke with you once on a previous occasion where you were saying to me that roughly 95% of the staff at City Hall were avid supporters of the United Democratic Party and of the previous administration. How do you, in that kind of a seemingly tense political atmosphere, set aside all of the party politics, so to speak, and move towards one shared vision? How do you get all of these people to say, well, you know what, we'll leave politicking for another time, perhaps around election time or whatsoever, but for now we need to be able to work and work as a team?
Well, as you would expect, remember the previous council was in office for approximately 12, some going on for 15 years, and with that by itself, you would expect that there would be a high level of party supporters in the council. I am a strong believer that as a leader, you should be able to influence people and have them buy into your vision. Whether it be that they are from the different side or they share different views, if we are able to articulate what we want to get done, and we could articulate the bigger picture of where we see the Belize city landscape in the next 3 to 4 years, I believe that people want to buy in. The employees want to buy in. At the end of the day, they have their own mandate to their families to ensure that they are employed and to ensure that they put bread, food on the table. And so at the end of the day, these employees still want to serve the city.
Now, obviously, since you have taken over the post as mayor, you've come to the realization that every decision you make will be scrutinized. And you will be questioned by the media, by your supporters, and even by your critics. One of the first decisions you made, which you had mentioned in your campaign that you would execute an audit, was bringing back Joe Koi to participate in the audit, to head up the audit. And that was heavily scrutinized.
Yeah.
What do you say to this decision that you made?
If I had to do it over again, I would still do it over again. I'm a strong believer that that irrespective of what happened in the past with Mr. Koi knows he has been a former mayor, so he knows where the skeletons are in most of the time. He's able to maneuver, he's able to navigate City Hall, and aside from that, he's a certified accountant. So he brings that measure of accountability, transparency to the post, and I felt that he was doing it pro bono, free of cost to the council. Why not engage this man? Why not engage him in leading the transition team? So I feel that decision remains with me, and that decision will continue to remain with me.
The perception, however, while I understand and respect where you're coming from, the perception at the time was, well, look, old PUP, they come right back again. And that may have been sort of the propaganda that was being sold to the public, that it was only an opportunity for the PUP to gain office, and then some of the older folks that they, you know, come right back into play.
Well, Isani, that is the spin masters at work, right? The UDP are great at spinning propaganda. To me, they have still not gotten over the loss, and they need to cope with it and learn to start coping. The elections are over, right? We need to move forward, right? And they continue to spin this propaganda. And listen, the Belize City residents are tired of the politicking. They want to see work being done for the city. I don't have any time for that. My message to the to my opponents would be to learn to cope. Let's move on.
Now, I want to come back to some of the issues there, but let's hear from Councilor Gentle as well in terms of your experience coming into office.
My experience was a tremendous one, since it's my first time in this era of political. I have always been in the background, so now I'm on the front line.
Woman in politics.
Yes. Been in the background for 12 years working, and now on the front line delivering what we have said throughout our campaign. It's been a great experience, one that feels like the world is on our shoulder. For me, what I did when I got in is to immediately find out which department I will be working with, who is the workers, what is the council mandate that they have to carry out, and what is my mandate, so that we both don't be confused and we're able to work with each other. So that's what I did for my first 3 weeks, even though we were working, tried to get the basic done. And it has been great. Yes, I find myself now and again in a little bit of, I don't want to call it problem, but I would say overwhelmed and a little misunderstanding, because we're all new and they're adapting to my personality. So it has been great though, for the most part. I have been getting on within my department. So.
Yeah. So obviously all the councillors would have the same position in terms of orienting yourself within the council itself, and especially with an administration who is very used to another style. Let's talk about the city administrator issue. This is perhaps, I think, if we look back on the campaign, the People's United Party made it very clear they were not happy with the extension of the contract. And from an outside perspective, it almost looked like it was your first mission coming into office to do something about that.
Yeah, of course, Marlene. Aside from the unethical way in which that contract was concocted, added on to it is the rubbing your face type of approach that and it was revealed in the transition team report that this administration was rewarded, so to speak, a 4-year contract, elevated in terms of remuneration from 70,000 to over 100,000. And you have seen the transition team report. You have seen the gross mismanagement. Where I come from, that administration would have been fired immediately. Gross mismanagement, the budgeting process, Marlene, is always used in financial management. It's an important tool because it directs your legal mandate. It is your which guides all your planning, the budget, and the internal process guides how you will achieve your legal mandate. And so when you have a situation where a administrator knows that X amount of dollars is budgeted for this program, and you supersede those budget by huge figures, clearly is mismanagement, clearly is abuse, and nowhere should that administrator have been granted an extension on her contract. Nowhere. And that is where I stand with it.
A contract is a legally binding document, and I mean, I know that this case she's filing a case against the suspension, but are you not concerned that this perhaps will cost you more money in being able to battle with the city administrator at the beginning of your term?
Of course, there is always that possibility, but that's a legal issue, a legal matter, and we are willing to travel that road. We feel that we have a strong case. if it's put before the courts, we feel that we have a strong case that nowhere should an outgoing mayor subject an incoming council to have to deal or impose an administrator on a new council. And that is the way the former council has been operating for many years. We have contracts signed in that city hall that supersedes our term of office. Not only one contract, many contracts. And I feel it's an act of bad faith on Mayor Bradley to have done that. For me and for our council, we will never, during our course time at that council, ever engage in extending any contract beyond our 3-year term.
Now let me ask you this. You've done a review, an audit of sorts, to go back and look at some of the areas where there was gross excesses in terms of expenditure and what have you. There is this particular situation with the current city administrator as well. Armed with the findings and all the information that you've gathered through this process, what I want to know is what will be put in place now to avoid any recurrence of this kind, considering the fact that we're dealing with public funds.
Well, again, I come right back. There is a budgeting process. This process starts every year around August, and it's guided by your internal processes, right? It is guided by regulations sent down from local government, and local government always ensure that the budgeting process is a transparent process. You send up your budget, they sign off on it, and at the commencing of the fiscal year, you are expected to abide within those margins as your budget would indicate. You have internal processes that guide this entire expenditure and revenue process, right? But what happened here is the fact that the political directorate, and we spent a lot of time speaking to senior management, that senior management came to them and tell them, listen, we are outside budget, we are over budget. But the political directorate said, we got to continue moving on, right? Because of elections, because of ensuring that they wanted to ensure that they look good on the outside, but on the inside, things were rotten.
Now, you mentioned earlier that your advice to your opponents who lost the election would be to cope and to let go of the politicking. But if people were to assess what the council has done since they got into office, an audit looking back at the old administration's work, taking actions against the city administrator, publicly criticizing spending from the past, many may say you are falling within the same trap of the politicking that people are tired of, which is political victimization. We've heard over and over when an administration changed, they want to wipe out the slate, put in their own people, or stay in office and complain about the previous administration.
Yeah, that's far from what we have been doing. Aside from that, Marlene, we have been doing a lot of meetings. We have been holding a lot of meetings with ensuring that we achieve what we set out to achieve. We have met with the IDB, right? We have met with the World Bank on projects, the downtown rejuvenation project, the flood mitigation project. I've met with several ambassadors, the U.S. Embassy. I've met with the Taiwanese ambassador. We've met with the IDB in respect to the new zoning ordinance. I attended many workshops with local government. Local government has been very helpful in sensitizing us to how the public sector operates. We have met with them on the road traffic, the road safety project. So we have been putting in place many that won't be visible right now, but some huge projects are on stream. And we have been doing the legwork, trying to get acclimated to it. Several of them were already in the pipeline, and so it was just a matter of us being sensitized on those projects that were in the pipeline.
But what do you say to the residents of Belize who only view the criticism and the targeted actions taken against past administration or persons who worked with them? This country is very divided politically and with many other reasons, and perhaps your victory in this particular election was because people expected something new, something different.
Yes, certainly. We are different. We are different. We have not brought down the sledgehammer. We have not fired not one single person to date, Marlene. We have not. Has any administration been able to say that in the past? I could recall when Zenaida Moya took office. I believe at least 25 people went home in the first week. When Darrell Bradley assumed office, about 25 or 30 people went home within the first week. So we are different. Just by the mere fact of that, we are different. We want to work with the current employees. We don't blame the employees due to their political affiliation. We just want them to be professional, do their jobs, right? And those who insist on going that political road, then we'll have to part ways. So but we are different.
Before we continue, I would like to lobby more on this, because it makes it sound as if we are the same as the previous team that was there. And for one, all of us as councillor have took oath that we will be there carrying out our work throughout. We won't only go in once a month. So we dynamically change from what the previous council has been doing as councillors, whereas every week or 3 days out of the week, we make sure we meet with our managers and our staff to make sure our work are carried out. And besides doing the job, we go out there in the field, especially in my department. I take the walk with them. We lobby. If we need to use different stakeholders, I don't leave them to just go in that position and fend. I go and make sure the job get done. All right, we're going to do this together. So by we doing that within this, I would say a month and a half, we've been in council, clearly state that we're doing things different.
Now, let me ask you guys this though. In terms of initiatives that perhaps the previous administration would have thought would carry over or continue under this present regime, for instance, the discount on the property tax, that's one. Secondly, the pantry program for the elderly. The United Democratic Party issued a release last week in which they were soundly criticizing your administration for having cancelled these particular initiatives. How do you respond to the fact that perhaps the growing public, those of us who pay property taxes, we're already getting used to the 25% discount, and for our parents, those who are older, you know, the fact that perhaps I may be having it difficult or challenging this month, but you as a councillor could step in with something to provide for them to eat or what have you. And now you're departing from that. How do you respond to those kinds of criticisms?
We are not departing. We are not departing from, again, Isan, you got to be careful with the spin masters. The UDP are used to spinning garbage. The discount program is a program where at least the UDP version of the discount program benefited the wealthy, right? Out of that discount program that you put on the screen, 800,000. Would you believe that the percentage of that senior citizens benefit from is roughly 10 to 11%, right? 10 to 11% out of that 800,000. We are saying that the senior citizens leg of the discount program will not stop under our watch. There's no council that have more compassion than us in respect to our senior citizens, in respect to our youths, in respect to our women. So The spin masters have been doing this the entire weekend. 800,000. A huge portion of that is being granted to selective UDPs, selective wealthy people who can afford to pay. We are saying that 20%, when you do a discount program, it's like borrowing money at 20%. And that is what the council is losing. 20% to people who can afford it. But there are hundreds and probably thousands of people, Marlene, who owe the council less than $100. And it amounts to roughly 93,000. But yet we are chasing those people and we are taking them to court. I am saying that is not equity, right? We need to chase the big...
So what are you going to do? Revamp the program?
We got to revamp the program.
Okay.
We got to revamp the program so it's equitable, so that our senior citizens benefit, so that the people at the margins benefit, but the people who can afford to pay. That is our program, and that is what we'll be pushing, Marlene.
This gives us great insight into some of the things that are to come, but what we are going to do at this time is take a very quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Mayor Wagner and Councilor Gentle, so stay tuned.
When someone you love becomes a memory, the memory becomes a treasure. Channel 5 introduces the Daily Obituaries. The Daily Obituaries will broadcast all death and funeral announcements and memorials to honor your loved one's life and memories. The Daily Obituaries airs on Channel 5 prior to the evening newscast, with subsequent repeats at 10 p.m. and 12 noon the following day. It will also be placed online on our social media platforms, all for a standard package fee. Celebrate their lives and memories with Channel 5's Daily Obituaries. Honor in life and reverence in death.
And we are back. Thank you for staying tuned. Of course, we're continuing our conversation with representatives of the Belize City Council. Mayor Bernard Wagner is on set with us, and Councilor Aisha Gentle. And we've been tackling some of the issues and some of the questions that have been raised by the public since you took office. And I know now we're going to move forward in the conversation. Isani?
Yes. What I wanted to kind of shift gears and go in the direction of discussing the revenues and, of course, the fiscal situation at the Belize City Council. Having sat through the presentation last Thursday, not only were certain figures being mentioned in terms of arrears and other expenses or what have you, one of the things that stood out to me particularly, Mayor, is the fact that there's this amount of money out there that is uncollectible, as you had described it. Let's begin from that point of view.
Yeah, again, over the years, we have noted that the accounts receivables for the council continues to elevate based on our examination of our accounts receivables, accounts payables. Particularly the receivables have been going upwards, and a huge portion of that, if SANI has become relatively statute barred, might become uncollectible, might become to the point where you just have to write it off. That's, if I could recall, close to 5 million. We believe that with the legal mandate that the council has, that we should always be working in tandem with our legal department, right, to ensure that our collection basis is increased. We are collecting roughly 65% of tax assess each year. We have a council in Orange Walk, just for comparison purpose, who collects 95% of their taxes, right? So clearly there is room for improvement, right? We see a situation where we have engaged tax collectors. We pay out roughly 270,000 annually to these tax collectors, but yet we still remain between 60–65% collection. We feel as a new council that we got to step it up, right? Incentivizing the discount program has not impacted where it should be impacted, the senior citizens. As a matter of fact, it has the well-to-do has benefited extremely off that discount program, and as a result, it is eroding our revenue base. And once your revenue base start to erode, you are running into some serious problems in terms of liquidity risks, in terms of being able to pay your obligations down the road. And that is where we stand.
Now, we obviously this is the area where you bring the most expertise with your banking experience, and really I think if anyone looks at just the bottom line in the history of the City Council, it's always been a struggle in being able to collect revenue, sufficient revenue, and also being able to ensure that the work of the council is properly executed. Now, the difference is that a private sector mentality is bottom line only. And when you hear people complain about your banks, you understand that. But in a public office, there is a people sensitivity that also has to be tied in to your bottom line approach.
Yes.
What is your particular strategy in being able to ensure that you will work on getting the financials in order, but still ensuring that you're not breaking off the connections that the council has already built with the people?
Yeah, that's about striking the balance, right? You got to strike a balance there. The council needs the revenue, no doubt about it. For us to carry out any mandate to provide services, that deliver goods to the people, we have to get revenues. Mind you that the council generates close to 25 million on an average annually, and that is with the 60–65% collection ratio. So I am saying if we can take that up to within 80–85%, Marlene, that is an additional 3 to 4 million in revenues tap on to what you normally would collect. And if you would cut down on the wastage in terms of over budgeting, in terms of spending monies that you are not collecting, this council can operate in a fiscal prudent way and delivering the goods and services to this council, to the city. I'm a strong believer in that, Marlene, that the council generates enough income and revenues to be able to service the city. But we need to have an approach where we cut out the wastage, and we enhance our collection, and we will be in a good footing.
What is the clear fiscal situation at City Hall? You've had a month or so, a little over a month, to kind of look at where you stand financially. Are you guys in the red? You're on financial footing? Where do you stand?
No, we are operating. We are paying our staff salaries every time. We are able to meet salaries, and mind you, we are able to meet and pay out our income tax that we deduct from the staff payroll.
And your GST as
and
well.
We are able to pay. I told my finance people, listen, I don't want that practice to continue. If we deduct the PAYE, you pay it in. The GST, we pay it in.
Social Security.
And the Social Security, we pay it in. I just signed a couple items this past Friday in respect to those. Now, remember, this was not paid from August of 2017. So we have to try catch back, so to speak on it. It will take a little time. We believe that this nonsense, high season, low season, shouldn't exist at the council if you are able to do proper budget planning, if you are able to tie in say you have your property tax, Ms. Annie, we could say stagger your property tax for the entire year into installments, so that you are able to pay monthly installments to meet your property tax at the end of the year. So in that way, if we are able to do that for the entire city installments, we will be getting in cash flow on a monthly basis, and we'll wipe out this off-season, on-season type of nonsense. That is the approach. I've been speaking with our finance people. That is the new approach we want to go. We want to ensure that we have adequate cash flow throughout the year to be able to meet our commitments.
Those commitments include being able to service your agreement with Belize Waste Control. I know that garbage has always been an issue for the City Council. It's a perennial problem across all previous administrations, and it's one that you perhaps inherited.
Yeah.
Where do we stand with that?
It's a card we were, we were dealt. We were dealt that card with Waste Control. It's about building relationships. Many past councils have tried to fight this contract. I believe the contract is there. We are bound by it. So we need to build a relationship with the parties and to ensure that we live up to our obligation, man. Right? We can't harp that it's a bad contract, but we have to work with it. And so we have been able to meet our payments to Waste Control on a bi-weekly basis. They send their bill, we make the payments. Our cash flow is at levels that are adequate. We have been able to meet our payroll. And as our style begin to take root, you will see less and less of this flow, these cash flow problems.
So let's talk about what your priorities are at this moment. You know, it's about a month or more that you'll be completing your first 100 days. That's always a litmus test for people. What would you say, now that you have a clear understanding of the finances, which was a priority to you going into office, what are your priorities at this point?
Well, the priorities, obviously, we are entering the hurricane season. Actually, we have had several meetings with we have activated our SEMA group, our great team we have there in the SEMA. Very technical people, people who know what they are doing. We don't want to ruffle any feathers there. We believe that the people there have this great experience and great knowledge of how this program works and how it is activated. And so we have had several meetings. All the committees are engaged, and we are ready to face the hurricane season. What we have been doing is ensuring that our infrastructure is being kept or being maintained.
Yes.
This past weekend I was in the Orange Street area, and I note the cleaning of drains, the maintenance of drains, the digging out of all the silt built up. Last week I visited the Yarborough area in respect to dredging of that canal. I was made to understand late Friday evening, however, that the Ministry of Works have a program in place for that, and they were supposed to dredge it about 2 months from 2 months down the road. They have indicated to me their willingness to accelerate that, so that we are able to, and that way we could save money. I had already approached a private group to see what costs would be involved in dredging, but if the local government has that in their pipeline, then I'll take it. It's all about ensuring that we save money and that our funds are spent and prioritized in areas that is more needed.
Let's bring Councilor Gentle into the conversation once again. Which department are you tasked with headed, and what has been the work in terms of bringing this department along and trying to accomplish the goals that you have in your mandate?
Well, the department that I'm actually headed is the Parks and Playground, Market Beautification, and Citizen Engagement. When it comes to the Park and Playground, what I have did, because I have already previously met with my team and we spoke about my manifesto, because of course that's what we came in on our platform, and what is the mandate of the council when it comes to the parks and playground. So what we have done is to find out which park we have lease and we have titles too, and what we could apply to gain title. That was the first task that I did, because while campaigning, what I found out that these open space are actually parks and playgrounds across Belize. And when we attend, all I saw was a bushy space and nothing there. So I couldn't understand what was the immediate problem, why there is no swing slide or a basketball court for this.
Not even cleared.
So in my knowledge, to get to the roots of our problem, I want to see documents like this is there. And we also noted that some part, like the Louis Bevans Park on the Boulevard, it does not belong to the community or the council, because previous government decide that they want this property, so they obtain this property. So we found that out with many of the parks and playgrounds, so we have to go back and apply to central government, ask them why this have been done when this belongs to the community over 35 years, 40 years, older than me. I came and meet this there. So those are the things that we are looking to. Secondly, the hold up for some of the parks and playground that I want to establish on is that I don't want to go and invest and this property becomes title-long to someone. Then we lose money that we are actually putting into this community. I am looking into open space for, if you notice, Gungulung, those areas have expanded. So before we build, we are looking into open space, so we are lobbying to see where we could establish a new park and playground and where we could move forward from there. And presently with the park and playground that are existing at this point, and all, like BTL Park, Memorial Park, we have Sankas Park, who recently adapted last year into Rock Park, I'm still looking over some of the contracts to make sure it abide by the rules of parks and playground. See how I could make it very child friendly for kids and parents who attend the park, because many resident concern was the drinking in park, the safety. If I take my child to park, it have to be when the sun is up to be home and not have all these problems. So I realized that's one that we definitely have to look into deeply. And I had keep the basics done, like keep it, the beautifying and cutting that have been going on a weekly basis. So we're up to par.
Just to reinforce Councilor Gentle, one of our manifesto promise was to have a Southside Park built, similarly to the BTL Park. We believe that the Southside needed something to hold on to, the Southside people. And so we have already engaged with different partners to identify an area where we could put such a park. We have identified several areas, and so it's right now putting in place which one of them we will choose to build that park. But we believe that the Southside people need an area where there is that economic activity and where they could generate some sort of economic development. And so that is one of our key promises that we ensure that we'll get done within our time of office.
Now, one of the other areas, having discussed with you in another forum as well, is the fact that you're intending to roll out a program for small business owners, for those people who want to empower themselves through various small means. Can you explain that program once again?
That program is well underway. We are putting in, as we speak, we are putting in the structures to ensure that we not only grant you the funds, but we have the necessary structure and platform to enhance capacity, that when that individual receives that grant, that individual is able to do our basic profit and loss to ensure that his or her business becomes a going concern, and it is able to generate adequate revenue to sustain itself. We don't want to be granting a weed whacker to someone and 2 months down the road, that person sells the weed whacker, and we're right back to square one.
Chooses to be a barber as opposed to a yard man.
So that program is well underway. We have already received some level of funding for it. It will be processed through the Carry-led group. We have an economic development unit there at the council. We have already put the employees in place for that project. It's just how we want to ensure that it is sustainable and that we get benefit out of it, that people become their own bosses rather than coming to the council for hands out. That is the idea behind this initiative.
Now, you've spoken extensively in this conversation and in the transition report when you first went to the press with it about the wastage. And it seems to me that you speak of becoming fiscally prudent in cutting down what was previously called the high season, low season, and kind of have more of a continuous flow of funds throughout the year. Now, how much are you committed to ensure that you and the rest of the council, as well as your staff there, will be leaders by example? In other words, will you cut down on programs for people but continue to have great fuel allowances like we saw, or perhaps other excesses that you plan to cut back on? How committed are you to being able to manage your council in that way?
Yeah, well, Councilor Gentle here can attest to my style of management. I am very cognizant of not engaging in wastefulness and engaging and ensuring that our council is kept in check. And that's why we have this municipal public accounts committee that we have already now put in place. We have identified the individuals or the agencies that would want to come on board with us to lead that group. It's a 6-member team. 2 will be appointed by the council, 4 by civil society, and they will be what you call our watchdogs, ensuring that we are kept in check and that we don't abuse the public purse. Councilor Gentle, on many occasions, when we go to eat, and they would ask, Mayor, what's the amount that we can?
It's very tight. Even within our department, if we come, Mayor, this is what we want to carry out, this is our budget. Have you guys look at different alternation, or can you get donation to this program before? What have the measures you took in place before you brought this to me? Well, go back and bring this so that we could see what we could go over before we spend. So he's a very strict man, financial wise, when it comes to that. So I could attest to that, because for me, I'm ready to work. This is what I need, and move forward.
No,
that's with him. No, this have to be this way before we execute.
It's just my style that I came in, and where we came from, our CEO was always your outside budget. You have reached your threshold. You can't go any further. It was not budgeted for, and this is the kind of culture I'm trying to impart on my council. And by extension, the entire staff.
Obviously, that means you have to have a very good working relationship with the private sector to be able to have them buy into some of your programs and mitigate your costs. Also, I've heard you mention at least Ministry of Local Government working very closely with you, and Ministry of Works willing to collaborate. Talk to us about what you've been doing in ensuring that you can have a proper working relationship with the relevant departments or the relevant ministries of government in executing your work here in Belize City.
Yeah, we have a good relationship, I must say, with Mr. Clifford King from the local government. He has been very helpful with us. He has spent countless hours with us, 2 sessions of training, full day training at the Radisson Hotel. And he also brought 2 days training at the council to try to sensitize us on public administration. They are always willing to work along with us in terms of ensuring that we understand the budget process. We understand what is our mandate as a council. We are not there to govern, but to set policy in place. So I feel that with the good relationship established, that we'll be able to move this thing forward, man. We must move this thing forward to make Belize City residents benefit.
It's promising to note, because I think a lot of people were apprehensive as to whether or not you'd have any cooperation, or it would be perhaps a bit more challenging. But it seems that you've been able to...
And aside from that, Marlene, we have met with some of the international partners. We have met with the US Embassy, and we have worked out some good arrangements in terms of technical support, in terms of our Little League Baseball program. We have met with the Taiwanese ambassador. They are willing to work along with us on technical support in the terms of getting some traffic lights in place. So things are being put in place. People are a bit anticipating more. They figure, but a new council coming in place, it takes a while. And people say about this 100-day plan, I always tell my council, listen, don't get caught up in this 100-day plan. We have a 3-year plan. We have to think long term. Stop thinking short term. If we are pushed in a corner where all we are concentrating on is this 100-day plan, then we are already losing. Let's look long term.
I know the time for this segment is quickly winding down, but I have to get this in just for the Belize City residents who are watching. And this was one of the questions that I asked you on Thursday, albeit under my breath. I'll ask it openly now. And Councillor, you could feel free to chime in as well as the individual responsible for parks and playgrounds. BTL Park and the controversy surrounding the concerts that have been held there. I know that annually we all look forward to celebrating the anniversary of this brand new renovated space. What can we look forward to going into next year for the 5th anniversary or so?
Actually, tomorrow, Isani, tomorrow we are celebrating our staff. Labor Day previously was spent working the staff. Tomorrow we are celebrating our staff. The council, along with myself, will be serving our staff out there at the BTL Park. We'll be having an event from 10 until about 2. We'll be treating them to barbecues, we'll have drinks, we'll have watermelon eating contests, we'll have races, we'll have karaoke. We're celebrating them because they are our greatest resource. And we care about our staff. They can see that we are a council that put them first. But coming back to your question, I have nothing against concerts. I love concerts, but I want my local people to benefit from those concerts. I would have no problem if out of 130,000 when we spend, at least my local artists may get 30,000, I may feel good. But when my local artists get $150 and $100, then I cannot support it. And so going forward, the September celebrations will be coming on. You will see the local artists put at the forefront in whatever the council participates in or whatever the council sponsors.
We hold you at your word for that, guarantee.
Coming to parks, the thing is, my only view that I will bring to your knowledge is that by having these concerts, it doesn't necessarily mean that the council benefit from these concerts, because the fee, when you look at the fee, what is paid, $1,000, $1,800, that's only to get the park clean up and renovate and assess set up for this concert. It's no income. Whereas if we want to place a new bench, we could use this money, what we benefit from this, or off the same segment of money I could put up a new parking collect division. No, there is no revenue generating from these events. And my thing is, I couldn't understand why, because with all these events, it should bring some income and light that this park will be able to stand on its own grounds for a period of time. Whereas I won't have to go and say, all right, I need donation from ex-public or stakeholders to uplift this park while we just have an event.
Yeah.
So that's my concern. Like when we have this thing, we have to put in place. If we're using BTL Park, we know people, sometimes they will be mischievous, they will tweak a little right on the benches. We need to fix these things and repair it back. We have to make sure at the same time we have all these money to repair this stuff. That's my only...
Self-sustaining.
Yes. And if the previous, it has not been happening. So we find ourselves wondering if a swing is done at BTL Park, why haven't they just buy this piece and put it up back and this would have worked?
Yeah.
So my final question before we wrap up the show just has to do with your outlook in terms of infrastructure work. There are some uncompleted contracts that should be completed, and of course there is the Downtown Rejuvenation Project, which includes the commercial center, which will need to be financed in some way or another to be completed. Talk to us about your plan or your vision when it comes to these type of infrastructure work.
Well, infrastructure work continues, Marlene and Isani. The Raccoon Street, again, that was a project started. We've met with the contractors, RGB. That project continues. 3rd Street is supposed to be completed as well. Coming on stream, we have the Holy Emmanuel Street. That's off the Lake Eye Boulevard. That will be paved complete to behind the complex. We will ensure that that is done. We are actually trying to do the process of getting that off the ground. We have done a lot of streets in terms of rehabilitating some of the streets. I believe at least about 30 to 40 streets have been rehabilitated. I believe Zericote Street was done. We have a great councillor in Councillor Vaughan. He has been on the ground, as well as Chips, Michael Norales, councillor. He has been in charge of sanitation. He's been getting the work done. These are hands-on councillors. We want to look at the manhole situation. That is priority before the rainy season starts. At least the drainage issue, we are addressing those as we speak in terms of maintenance, in terms of cleaning those drains to ensure that when the rain comes, we don't have that excessive flooding. But clearly some of those projects we have in the pipeline.
Now, obviously, when you talk about street construction, one of the things that was a tough lesson learned for your previous administration was proper monitoring to ensure that you get quality for what you're paying for. You're a banker, not an engineer. How are you ensuring that the work that will be executed will not be another form of wastage where you have to go back and fix again?
No, we have in-house, we have a contract in place for a independent engineer who oversees all works and who would certify that what is there, the content, the mix, that it is up to standards, and then they would report back into us and sign off on the certificate, and then payment would be remitted. So we are no engineers. We have to go to the technocrats to ensure that we get quality for money.
Yeah. All right. And we didn't get anything on the commercial center there.
Yeah, the commercial center is well underway. As you know, that was in the pipeline previous to us. The funding, of course, came through the Heritage Bank. That project is well underway. It's supposed to be completed by December. And we have met with IE, the contractors. They have been very helpful again. We don't come here to fight people. Contracts are already signed. We don't come to tear down nothing. It's there, we have to live with it, and we want to make it work for the people of the city. And once we are able to contain our expenses and cut out wastage, enhance the cash flow, enhance the revenue, we are well on our way to a new city, Marlene. Trust me on this. Well,
that's a wonderful closing point for this conversation. Thank you so much for coming in this morning and sharing with us what you have been doing in almost 2 months in office.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll meet the teams that are going to be playing at the opening game tonight at the Civic Center, so stay tuned.